I want you to watch the moment that Tim Walz presses JD Vance over whether or not Donald Trump won the 2020 election, and JD Vance gives a non-answer. Now, this whole segment is incredible. Let's watch it.
Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th, the first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Yep.
Margaret? Senator Vance, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, well, look, Tim, first of all, it's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country.
That is such a slippery answer. Donald Trump went out kicking and screaming. He tried to subvert the will of the American people in 100 different ways. He came up with a theory with John Eastman that was entirely unconstitutional. We don't even have to talk about the day of January 6th. He undermined the election for months leading up to it. The idea that he went away on January 20th was not true. To this day, he says the election was stolen, and watch how Tim Walz cleverly traps him here.
We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections.
No.
Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen by...
Hillary Clinton conceded the election that night. In the middle of the night, she called Donald Trump and said, "You won." Donald Trump has still not conceded the 2020 election. That is a fundamental difference.
Vladimir Putin, because the Russians bought like $500,000 worth of Facebook ads. This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that we need to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say, as Tim Walz is saying, that this is just a problem that Republicans have had, I don't buy that.
It is absolutely just a problem that Republicans have had. I mean, time and time again, Donald Trump has said the election was stolen. He said that there was massive, widespread fraud. No Democrat has ever used rhetoric even close to that. No Democrat has ever said that there were ballots planted in machines in key swing states. No Democrat has ever had their entire cabinet, like Rudy Giuliani, sued after making up lies. Watch how Tim Walz traps him. Just wait for it.
Governor.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think a revisionist history on this. Look, I don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that happened. Donald Trump can do it. And all of us say there's no place for this. It has massive repercussions. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone, threatening to do something, that's not censorship. Censorship is book banning. We've seen that. We've seen that brought up. I just think for everyone tonight, and I'm going to thank Senator Vance. I think this is the conversation they want to hear. And I think there's a lot of agreement, but this is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just say.
Exactly. Well said. This is the moment right here. Watch.
Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm happy to talk about it further. But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation.
If you want to talk about the Constitution, Donald Trump says he wants to terminate the Constitution. If you want to talk about the First Amendment in particular, Trump has said that people who burn the American flag should go to jail and lose their citizenship. Donald Trump has stepped all over the Constitution, and I like how they're blaming the censorship on Kamala Harris, when first they blamed it on Mark Zuckerberg, then they blamed it on Peter Thiel, now they're blaming it on... It's just insane to me.
Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together.
Wait a minute. When Donald Trump lost that debate to ABC, he said ABC should have their licensing stripped away. He now says that Fox News needs to rethink their licensing now that they've been showing VP Harris rallies. I mean, Trump is the one who wants to censor people at every turn.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks.
Senator, the governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded.
Kamala Harris personally hit up Mark Zuckerberg and said, kick people off Facebook. What happened was the FBI was scared that foreign entities were influencing with the election. So the FBI, a completely separate entity, under Donald Trump, his presidency, said, hey, maybe don't share this Russian disinformation that we haven't confirmed.
Theater, that is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to respond to you.
Yeah, well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this, I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what
he made two amazing points there. Number one, he hit on the Mike Pence point, which he needed to hit on. I really wanted to hear him talk about Mike Pence. And then he also talked about the firewall, the guardrails that we constantly talk about. What happens when Donald Trump only appoints loyalists all around him? What happens when he doesn't have Mike Pence's or Bill Barr's or Mark Meadows, which I don't like any of those people, but they at least checked Donald Trump. He's going to replace them with Rudy Giuliani and Mike Lindell. There will be no firewalls or guardrails.
We're asking you, America, will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up.
This was an interesting debate. Now, a lot of people are asking me what I thought, and here are some broad thoughts. I think they both performed well. And look, I told you guys before the debate, don't underestimate J.D. Vance. I mean, he can speak, he's slick, he knows how to slither his way out of answers, and yes, he was lying and he was dishonest, but debating is a very unique skill, and I think that I think that J.D. Vance is a decent debater. I think Tim Walz is more likable and affable, but he wasn't really going for the jugular. And I like that. They had a lot of moments where they agreed, but also debating doesn't reflect on your leadership. And Tim Walz showed all of the qualities of a good leader throughout this debate. J.D. Vance lied a lot. Those aren't the qualities of a good leader. So when I'm looking for leadership on stage, I see Tim Walz as a leader. I see J.D. Vance as a good orator, a good snake salesman like Vivek Ramaswamy, but a good leader, I'm not quite sure. He's also inexperienced, and yeah,